Hello, everyone. I'm Randy Arrington, and welcome to the 65th episode of Page Valley Livin. We're here today in the Stanley home of Danae and Tyler Campbell, and Tyler is a lineman for Shenandoah Valley Electric Cooperative, and he's going to share a story with us about a day that changed his life on April 16th, 2024, when he hit a live wire and was sent to a DC hospital where he spent nearly 7 months in recovery. We're going to talk about this tragic accident and how it affected their family in just a few moments. But first, a word from our sponsor. At Luray Caverns, you can hear music of symphonic quality from ancient stone formations on the great stalacpipe organ, the largest musical instrument in the world. Only at Luray Caverns. Visit them online at luraycaverns.com to plan your trip today. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 65th episode of Page Valley Livin. As we said earlier, we're here in the Stanley home of Danae and Tyler Campbell. And Tyler, you got an important job there. You're a lineman for Shenandoah Valley Electric Cooperative. How many years have you been working for the company?
This December will be 4 years.
4 years. Well, I'll tell you what, a lot of folks probably don't think about you very much, and they don't think about electricity until we get an ice storm or the wind gets up a little bit and lines start going down, and all of a sudden you become one of the most important people in their lives, I would say, because they want to get back to having their gadgets and their TVs and all of that. And it's kind of like the commercial we see on TV where there's a big storm outside and it's horrible, and as everybody's rushing into the house, out goes the lineman out into the storm. And do you ever feel the importance of that, or do you sometimes feel the heat during these storms?
Yeah, a little bit of both, really. It could be 1 o'clock in the morning. It could be right after work. You just don't know when the phone call is going to come. It's just what we do, though. We run out and get people's power back on. It's the main thing is just have patience.
And oftentimes you're out there in the worst of weather, pouring down rain or a storm, high wind, still blowing, and you guys may be up there dealing with something, or maybe cold as the dickens, and I bet you've seen quite a few of those.
Oh, yeah, multiple.
Well, let's talk a little bit about a day you were up doing a project here in Page County on April 16th of 2024, a day I'm sure you're going to remember forever. Tell us a little bit about where you were and what you were doing.
So April 16th, 2024 was just a normal day. Me and Danae woke up, got ready for work. We got our kids ready for school, sorry. We said our goodbyes. I went to work, just a normal day. I knew going into work we had a pretty big job coming up on Redmond Store Road. Okay. We needed pretty much all hands on deck. Other than that, I can't really say so much. That's kind of a blur from the rest of the day.
What happened on that day that kind of caused you to lose your memory?
So on the job site, we got there probably 8:30 in the morning, began our work. We had to set a couple poles beforehand. Roughly around 10:30ish, I ended up making contact with a live power line, kind of right in this vicinity, right over top of my heart.
Mm. Now, we were talking earlier about this, and obviously there are tons of precautions, safety gear, things that go into this planning. Foreman on site, I'm sure, co-workers working with you, watching out for each other's back. How could something like this happen?
Multiple things could happen really at any given time. It's just kind of freak accidents and things just happen. We had all of our PPE on, all the rubber cover up, pretty much every safety protocol we needed to happen, we were in the scope of. So.
About what time of day was this?
Roughly 10:30 that morning.
Do you remember where you were and when you first heard about it?
Yes, so I was at work. I work in Harrisonburg, and I'd had a really busy morning. We were actually getting ready to go to, that weekend, we were going to the cabins up in that RV resort, and we were going to stay there. So I was trying to figure out everything. We were getting ready and that sort of thing, and super busy at work. And then I had gotten on Facebook, and I saw a first alert post, and It had been posted for 1 minute, and it was very vague. It just said Electricution, Redmond Store Road. And in that moment, I just felt very uneasy, and I didn't know it was Tyler. Had no information at that point, but I was calling everyone I could to find out who it was and kind of put the puzzle pieces together. And then I think it was about 5 to 10 minutes later, I had gotten a call from his HR that it was Tyler and he had been electrocuted. They did have information that he was still breathing, so that was able to help me in that time.
You said before that you had some sort of an instinct before you knew for sure that it was him.
Yeah.
What kind of feeling did you have?
I remember, like I said, I was in my office and I saw that post, and I went out of my office to where all my coworkers were, and I was like, someone's been electrocuted. And they all kind of thought I was crazy, like, why would you think it's Tyler? And there was just this gut feeling that I've never felt before, and I just kind of knew. I knew something was wrong with Tyler.
Now, you all have 3 children, 3 small children. Where were the children at this time?
So I believe I had 2. I think they were all at the babysitter that day. Yep.
And so you had to then, did you pick them up or someone else pick them up, or how did this
No, so
unfold?
it was kind of a mess in the moment because obviously we're all trying to figure out where we're going. My sister actually came to pick me up because she didn't want me driving or anything like that. So me and her headed straight to the hospital, and lots of friends and family helped out with the kids, but his brother's fiance actually picked them up that day and kept them.
When you first arrived at the hospital, what were the doctors telling you? Were they a little uncertain about what the future held in those big first hours and first days?
Yeah, it was very scary. I remember us going in this little tiny room. They sat me at a table, and I had to sign paperwork regarding Tyler's life or death scenarios, and it was very scary, and they were very honest and upfront. Like, electrocutions are very different from other burns. The electricity literally went through his body, so they were explaining that there's lots of things that something could be wrong with his organs, his muscles. Like, there's so many things on the inside that we can't see. So they were very honest, and they said the first 24 hours would be the worst. So it was very scary.
Tyler, do you recall what maybe the first thing was that you could remember when you woke up in the hospital? And how long was that before you knew what was going on?
That's been a very popular question, and I do not have the answer to it. I was in the hospital for a total of 6 weeks, medically sedated for probably 3/4 of that time. So I was kind of in and out, didn't really know what was going on. But when I finally did come to, I just kind of knew what had happened. I don't really remember my first thought or anything like that, but I just kind of knew. I was aware of the situation that was going on.
I will say that the doctors and nurses and stuff were very adamant that when he would wake up, because he would wake up sometimes, and just letting him know, like, hey, you are at the hospital, you were like, they continued to repeat it, just so I guess Tyler wasn't so freaked out.
Can you tell us a little bit about what was involved in your recovery? I mean, I think you all said, excuse me, you were in hospital for almost 7 months. What was involved during that time getting you back home?
Well, we were in the hospital for 6 weeks.
6
but
weeks?
The whole recovery was 7 months.
Okay.
Before he actually got back to work. So the 6 weeks in the hospital, he was completely sedated, intubated for 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, like I said, there was lots of back and forth of like, are we going to get this ventilator out? And it got to the point where we had to do tracheostomy at 3 weeks. So then that was a huge game changer. It was about 2 days later, Tyler was awake. He couldn't talk to us because he had a trach, but he was alert and he knew we were there. He could make eye contact, he could nod and stuff like that. So it was a huge game changer. And then it was about 2 weeks from there, once we were in week 5, he finally built back up his lungs and he was able to get the tracheostomy out and go down to the step-down unit.
And then it wasn't too much longer. I guess he got to go home. what about the recovery at home?
Yep, so he was in the hospital for another week after that, mainly working on PT and just building back up his strength. So Tyler couldn't walk, he couldn't brush his teeth, he couldn't use the bathroom, he couldn't do anything on his own. He remembers a time where they put a 5-pound dumbbell in his hands and he couldn't even lift it.
Well, he looks like a pretty big fella. He ought to be able to lift 5 pounds.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, well, shoot, a 5-pounder, and I couldn't really.
That
budget
really
at all.
bothered him. So. But yeah, I mean, it was tough. He was in a wheelchair. He couldn't walk. So once we got home, we have a 2-story house. He was not able to go upstairs. We had to bring our extra bed to the first floor for him to sleep down here. And then he had PT every couple of days to really build back his strength. And it was just amazing to see kind of the dedication that Tyler had. Like he did not like that. He doesn't like to be able to not do things on his own. He was very determined to get back.
And without the big fella here helping around home and stuff, I guess you had to have a real support network to get through that time with 3 little ones.
Yes,
Yep.
It was very difficult. But we just stayed as positive as we could and just got through it.
Well, obviously, as all you folks can see, Tyler has made a full recovery. He's returned to work as a lineman for Shenandoah Valley Electric Cooperative. And when we come back in just a moment, we're going to talk about how this tragic incident from almost a year ago, the anniversary will be on April 16th, the 1-year anniversary of this event. We're going to talk about how it impacted their lives since then. We'll talk about all that and more in just a moment once we hear word from our sponsor. At Luray Caverns, from well-lighted paved walkways, explore cathedral-sized rooms with ceilings 10 stories high, and walk among huge chambers filled with towering stone columns. Come visit Geology's Hall of Fame, only at Luray Caverns. Visit them online at luraycaverns.com to plan your trip today. Welcome back, everyone. Again, we're at the Stanley home of Danae and Tyler Campbell. And Tyler, first of all, I didn't do this in the first segment. I should have. I want to thank both of you for taking the time to talk with us today. And I know maybe bringing up some of these memories isn't easy, but I appreciate you giving us this time.
Absolutely.
And, you know, Tyler, one question that really popped out in my mind when I thought about this, because you've been back at work how long now?
Part-time, light duty-ish, and sometime in December, and then I got fully released sometime in January. So
Okay. Well, one of the things I thought about, so it's only been a few months.
Yeah.
One of the things I thought about, and the comparison that popped in my mind was that of a NASCAR driver. You know, a lot of times when they get down to Talladega and those long stretches and they have those big crashes, it's sometimes hard for them to come back, be it the PTSD or whatever it may be. Did you have any reservations, second thoughts about going back?
not really. You know, I was a little bit nervous just thinking about the whole returning to work and being back into everything, but I didn't really remember much of that day. So as a man, I think I'm good to return, but until I'm kind of back in that scenario, I don't think I'll have that answer until that day.
And as his wife, and having gone through 7 months of recovery, 6 weeks in the hospital, watching him be on a ventilator, was there part of you that said, what do you think of selling insurance?
It was a struggle. It was. I remember us having the conversations, and I'm being like, Tyler, why do you want to do this? Like, you almost died. It almost took you from us. But also just having faith that God saved him for a reason, and there's a purpose in Tyler's life. This is what he loves to do, which I don't see him doing anything else either. So it was hard for me to picture him doing something else, and I just thought about, would he be happy doing something else? Like, I want him to be happy long term. So just trying to stay positive and allow him to kind of make that decision.
Do you kind of hope that maybe this kind of one of the several messages that we might send out from doing this interview is that people might realize the risk that linemen take each and every day when they go out, particularly in dangerous storm type conditions, just so they can binge watch The Office or Parks and Rec or something like that, or play on the computer or on the internet. I mean, do you hope they kind of recognize that?
Yeah, I do. I know it's easy to get mad at us power guys when we're taking 3-4 hours, shoot, maybe even longer to get the power back on. But it's not always as easy as going out and just throwing a fuse in. We might have 6 broken poles on one outage, so that's going to take a little bit of time. It's kind of a bunch of underlying factors people don't see from the outside, but we just do our thing and keep on trucking. So.
And it's kind of hard as a wife or a family member in general, just kind of seeing those people get frustrated, because we're all frustrated if we lose power, but just knowing that these are people's family out there and they're trying to do it correctly and safely, and they do want your power back on as much as you do, because they are out there in the snow and the rain and the cold weather and all that.
Thinking back on April 16th, 2024, Tyler, and given what happened and given how close things could have come to going a different way, do you look or interact with your children differently now?
Yeah, most definitely. It's having little kids. It's easy to get frustrated with them, and kind of push them to the back burner. Daddy, play this for 5 minutes, and then let's do this. And I used to I'll play with you for a little bit, and then I got to go do some things for myself. But now, I try to put them first and really spend some quality time with them and show them that I actually am interested in doing things that they want me to do with them.
Is there anything you've noticed in just your day-to-day routines that's maybe different that has changed?
Kind of really a lot of different things. I've got back into working out again because my strength from this was completely down. It was bad. So I've, got the motivation to get back into working out again, spending time with the kids, kind of going out and doing things as a family, and try not to be so tight, not go out and get ourselves in debt, but, if we want to go do something for the day, we're gonna take the time and go do it.
Make the most of the moment and make some memories. Huh?
Exactly, because you never know, you never know when the tide's going to turn and things can go wrong. So.
Absolutely. What would you say, for both of you, has been the biggest thing that helped pull you through this tragedy?
I would say God, and it was very hard in that moment, in those moments, just realizing that, and we had moments of questioning and why would God do this, or why would anyone do this, and honestly now we can see it, and there was something there. There's a reason that Tyler saved, and we just kept our faith in God.
What's the one thing that you're most grateful for now that you've come through it?
Definitely my family. My wife was a complete trooper through it all. I don't know how she done it. If the tides were turned, I wouldn't have shined like she did, that's for sure. 'Cause, she just took everything upon herself, and it was awesome to see. Family was right there with us every step of the way. So I don't know what we would have done without them. Watching our kids, helping take care of our house, or even coming by to start our vehicles. So they're not dead for 7 months or so. Right. So.
Well, you lead me right into another question I wanted to ask. Beyond family and friends, at least on Facebook, it looks like there was a wave, a tidal wave of support, of emotions, thoughts, prayers, actions. Tell me about the community support, community reaction, particularly for you in the early days when he was out of it a little bit.
It makes me get emotional because it was literally amazing. Like, we had people from all over. I had people messaging me. We had people donating to help us because me and his mother and father, we stayed in D.C. for the entire 6 weeks. So we were off of work. We were paying for places to stay, food to eat every day, paying for parking, like all kinds of things. And this community is amazing when something happens. And then beyond that, the lineman community is amazing. We had people from Texas, Canada, Florida,
All over.
Georgia, I
Yeah.
mean, all over. I had people who had been in similar situations who I could go to for anything. Just the support was absolutely amazing. It was mind-blowing.
Now that we're on the other side of this and we're through it, what's the one thing you've learned about your husband that you didn't know before?
He is, I don't know if I didn't know this before, but he's very determined. He's a very strong man. He's just an overall great person, and I think it really shone through this accident because all the support, I mean, everyone loves Tyler. There's not really anyone who doesn't love Tyler. Sometimes I might get a little mad at him, but I do still love him, and everyone does, and everyone cared about him and showed up any way that they could.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, Tyler, as we wind up here, I'm going to end up on this one right here. For folks who go about their lives every day and maybe they've had very comfortable lives, they haven't had to deal with a lot of tragedy, and they take a lot of things for granted. What type of advice would you offer to them?
Do not take the little things for granted, and show the people you love that you love them. Because I was one of the everydayers taking it for granted, just kind of coasting through. And ever since that day, the outlook on life's really changed. Our faith is a lot stronger. We attend church. We do a lot more things as a family. That's the main thing. Just don't take little things for granted. And if you love someone, show them that you love them.
That is a beautiful, beautiful sentiment. Well, Tyler, so glad to see you in full
Yes, sir.
recovery. And Danae, thank both of you for your time today. Thank you for sharing your story. And we hope that this story was inspiring for you today and that you walk away with maybe a little different look on life. We want to thank everybody out there for watching today for our 65th episode of Page Valley Livin'. Like today's episode, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Page Valley News, and also share this video with a friend. We want to thank Eleanor Arrington for all of her work behind the camera today and in the editing room. And as we end, in each and every segment, we want to remind everybody to go down to the Page County Animal Shelter and help one of our furry friends find a forever home. Until next week, I'm Randy Arrington saying, enjoy that Page Valley living.